Harrison stepped off the transport shuttle and looked up at the Intergalactic Academy of Knowledge. The station hung in space like a massive crystal, its surfaces reflecting the light of 3 different suns. Other students moved around him, towering creatures with scales, exoskeletons, and features that seemed designed to intimidate. He was the only human in the entire academy. Picked up his bag and walked toward the entrance. A group of Vex warriors passed him without looking down. They were tall, their skin rippling with muscles beneath purple and black scales. One of them laughed about something, a sound like grinding metal, kept walking. The academy corridors stretched out in all directions. The architecture was angular and cold. Large doorways accommodated the biggest students. Had to watch where he walked so that bigger beings did not step on him by accident. Most of them did not seem to notice he existed. In the registration office, a named crystalline voice processed his documents. The alien was made entirely of luminescent crystalline material, her form geometric and precise. She looked at its registration form and tilted her head. "You are human," she said. It was not a question. "Yes," replied. "The Academy has never admitted a human before. We have accepted humans from protected worlds before, but this is your first time joining us. You understand that the coursework is very difficult." Nodded, "I am ready." Crystalline voice made a sound like wind chimes. It might have been a sigh. "You will be placed in standard courses. We do not have special classes for your species. You will study alongside Vex and many others. The dormitory assignment has been made. Your room is in Sector 7, Building 3. Took his assignment papers and walked deeper into the academy. His first day in class was in advanced xenobiology. The professor was a being whose body seemed made of dark stone and whose eyes glowed with an inner fire. Was famous throughout the academy for his knowledge and his complete lack of patience with weak students. Entered the classroom early and took a seat near the back. Other students filtered in over the next few minutes. They were all larger than him. A Vex warrior sat down 2 seats away and glanced at with something like curiosity. A species of gentle, plant-like beings took another seat. 2 students arrived together, their conversations filled with harsh sounds. When entered, the room went quiet. "Today we discuss the classification of sapient species based on their developmental environment," began. His voice was deep and carried through the room like thunder. "A species from a harsh world develops different traits than a species from a protected world. Can anyone give me examples?" A Vex student raised his hand. "Warriors from my world, Vex Prime, are strong because our gravity is 3 times Earth's gravity. Our muscles developed for strength." "Correct," said. "What about a protected world species?" Another student spoke. "The humans come from Earth, a protected world. They are weaker because they never had to develop strength." Felt every eye in the room turn toward him. He continued taking notes. Looked directly at, "Is this true, human? Your species developed on a protected world." "Earth is a professor," said calmly. "It has extreme weather, dangerous predators, and limited resources. It is not protected." Stared at him for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your fragile species lives on that is unexpected, but size matters more than environmental factors. Your species is physically weak. This is a fact, not an opinion." The Vex student who had spoken earlier smirked. The students made clicking sounds that might have been laughter. Did not respond. He wrote down what had said and continued taking notes on the lesson. After class, walked to the academy library. The Vex student caught up with him in the hallway. "I am," the warrior said. "I wanted to meet the human. I did not believe the academy would let one attend." Harrison replied, "It is good to meet you." Looked him up and down. "You are very small. Do all humans look like you?" "Most humans are similar in size, yes." "That seems like a problem." Turned and walked away without saying anything else. The library was vast and quiet. Found books on comparative biology, xenology, and galactic history. He spent his evening reading. An older student, a named Silk, asked if he needed help finding anything. "Thank you," said. "I am looking for information about species development on harsh worlds." Silk made a gentle humming sound. "Are you worried about what Professor said?" "No," said. "I want to understand what he was wrong about." Silk guided him to a different section. "You might find useful information here. Many assume that physical strength is the same as survival strength. They are not always the same thing. Thanked Silk and spent another 2 hours reading. Over the next week, settled into a pattern. He attended classes, took detailed notes, and participated when asked direct questions. He never volunteered information. He never corrected other students. He never showed any reaction when other species made jokes about human weakness. In the dormitory common room, a group of Vex warriors were discussing combat techniques. One of them saw and called him over. "Human, tell us, do humans have any warrior tradition?" the Vex asked. Considered the question. "Yes, humans have long history of warfare and conflict." "But you are so small and weak," another Vex said. "What kind of warrior could you be?" Did not get angry, his expression did not change. "A warrior who survives," he said simply, then he returned to his room. In all of his classes, maintained perfect attendance. His assignments were excellent. He asked intelligent questions that showed he had read beyond the required materials, but he never drew attention to himself. He moved through the academy like a ghost, present but invisible. Crystalline Voice, his registration advisor, watched him from a distance. She had expected the human to struggle or to cause problems. Instead, he seemed to glide through the academy unnoticed by most students. She felt something like pity for him. He was intelligent and dedicated, but he would never be respected. That was simply the nature of being weak in a galaxy where strength was valued above all else. In the training facility, participated in the required physical training sessions. He was not the strongest student there. He was not even close, but he moved with a strange kind of precision. His technique was perfect, even if his power was limited. The instructors noted that he improved steadily, though his absolute performance remained below average for the academy. One evening, sat alone in the cafeteria eating his meal. Around him, other students laughed and talked in various languages. No one sat at his table. No one approached him. He was accepted into the academy, but he was not part of it. A walked past his table and deliberately knocked drink to the floor. Simply watched the liquid spread across the table. The laughed and walked away, cleaned up the mess himself and continued eating. 3 months into the academy term, decided that the human had been ignored long enough. Not ignored in a neutral way, but tested, provoked, pushed to see what would happen when a weak species was forced to acknowledge its place in the hierarchy. Gathered 4 other Vex warriors in the academy training facility after the official sessions ended. The space was empty except for them. The heavy equipment sat silent in rows, and the practice mats stretched across the floor in massive sections. "The human goes to the library every evening around this time," said. "He will pass through this corridor to get there. We will be waiting." One of the other Vex, a warrior named, laughed. "What do you want to do? Teach the human about strength." "I want to understand what makes him think he belongs here," said. "Every other student either fights back or runs. The human does neither. He just accepts everything. It is strange." The Vex warriors positioned themselves in a loose group in the corridor. When approached, they stepped in front of him, blocking his path to the library. Stopped walking, he looked at the warriors calmly. "I need to pass," he said. "I know you do," said, "but first we want to talk to you." Waited, he did not try to move around them. He did not show fear or anger, he simply waited. Stepped closer, too. The Vex warrior was nearly 3 times height and at least 5 times his weight. "Tell me, human, why do you come to this academy? You are not a warrior. You are not even close to the strength level of the weakest student here. What is your purpose?" "To study," replied, "to learn." "But you could learn from your own species," said. "Why come here to be weak among the strong?" Considered this, his answer was simple and direct. "Because the best education requires challenge. I came here to be challenged." His expression changed. Something that might have been respect flickered across his face, but it was quickly replaced by something harder. He reached out and shoved backward. Stumbled but did not fall. He regained his balance and stood still. "You should have fallen," said. "A real warrior would have knocked you to the ground, but you are so light and so weak that I barely moved you." The other Vex warriors laughed. Shoved again, harder this time. Took the hit and stepped back, maintaining his balance with careful footwork. "Why do you not fight back?" demanded. "Every warrior fights back, every species shows some resistance, but you just accept it. You are truly pathetic." Was quiet for a moment, then he asked one question, his voice steady and calm. "Are you done?" His tone was not aggressive or sarcastic. It was genuinely curious, as if he was asking whether the conversation would continue or end. The simplicity of the question somehow made it more powerful than any protest or threat would have been. Felt something stir inside him, something that made him angry in a way he did not fully understand. He grabbed by the arm, his claws extending slightly. "Let me explain something to you, human. You are weak. Your species is weak. The only reason you are still alive is because the Academy has rules against killing other students. If this was a real world, a real situation, you would already be dead." Did not pull away from Scrip. He did not struggle. He simply looked the Vex warrior in the eye. "I understand," he said. "Do you?" Released him. "I do not think you do. You have never known real danger. You have never faced true warfare. You have no idea what it means to fight for survival against real enemies. You are a child playing at being a student." For the first time, his expression shifted slightly. Something moved behind his eyes, something deep and ancient. It was only there for a fraction of a second, but saw it. "You are wrong," said quietly. "I have known danger. My species understands it better than you understand your own strength." Stepped toward him again. "Then prove it. Show me some of this understanding." Did not move. He did not raise his hands to defend himself. He simply stood there, watching with an intensity that had not been visible before. The other Vex warriors moved closer, forming a circle. They wanted to see what would happen when the human finally broke. But did not break. When threw a punch aimed at his shoulder, simply moved aside with minimum effort, letting the blow pass through empty space. When tried to grab him from the side, slipped away with a precision that seemed almost impossible for someone so small. He was not fighting back. He was not attacking. He was simply not there where the Vex expected him to be. "Stop," said. His warriors froze. The Vex warrior was breathing hard now, not from exertion, but from frustration. "You just showed me something. You moved like a warrior would move. You have training. You have skill. Why do you hide it?" Straightened his clothes. There was not a single scratch on him. "Because fighting would only prove that I am weak. Avoiding the fight proves that I am in control." The statement hung in the air between them. Before anyone could respond, the facility's security system activated. Red lights flashed in the corridor. A voice spoke through the speakers. "Unauthorized training session detected. Facility access has been locked. Security personnel are being dispatched." The Vex warriors looked at each other. They had broken Academy rules by gathering in the facility after hours. Getting caught would result in punishment and loss of privileges. Looked back at, "This is not over, human." "I know," said, "but the conversation is finished." The Vex warriors ran as security personnel began moving through the corridors. Remained where he stood, calm and breathing normally. When security arrived, explained that he had been in the wrong place at the wrong time and had not been part of the unauthorized training. The security personnel accepted this and allowed him to continue to the library. That night sat in the library as usual, but his mind was not on his studies. He was thinking about what had said. The Vex warrior had challenged him in the direct way that warriors understood. He had tested him to understand what he truly was. And had revealed something, not much but enough. Other students in the academy would hear about what happened in the training facility. They would hear that the human had moved like a trained warrior, that he had avoided every strike without making any effort. They would wonder what he truly was. Returned to his book, but he knew that his time as the invisible, weak human was ending. Something had been released, and it could not be fully contained again. In the corridors the next day, other students watched with different eyes. Not with fear yet, but with a kind of awareness. The Vex warrior nodded at him when they passed in the hallway. It was not a gesture of friendship. It was a gesture of recognition. The Galactic Cooperation Project was a requirement for all students in their first year at the Academy. Teams had to include at least one member from 4 different species. The project required students to research a complex topic and present their findings to the entire Academy. The assignment was given on a Monday morning. By Wednesday, team formations were finalized. Had been nervous about being chosen by any group. Few teams wanted a human, and those that did seemed to want him only to complete the species requirement. But then appeared at door. "I need a human on my team," said without introduction. "I have assembled a group. You are to be part of it. Meet us in the collaboration room 7 tomorrow afternoon." Nodded. "What is the topic?" "You will find out tomorrow," replied. The next afternoon entered the collaboration room. Inside he found Crystalline Voice and Silk. They made a gentle humming sound when he saw. "I am pleased you are here," Silk said. "I voted to include a human. There is much we can learn from your species." Crystalline Voice made her wind chime sound. "The topic is predator-prey dynamics across different worlds. I suggested this when I learned a human would be on the team. It seemed relevant." Explain the plan. Each team member would research predators from their world. They would analyze what made them successful hunters. Then they would present comparative data to show how different species had evolved to hunt and survive. Was given the assignment to research Earth's apex predators. Over the next 3 weeks, gathered information about Earth's greatest hunters. He studied sharks, lions, eagles, bears, and wolves. He analyzed their hunting techniques, their intelligence, and their position in their ecosystems. He read about human hunts throughout prehistory, about the methods that allowed a species of limited strength to take down creatures many times their size. He wrote a detailed report on the nature of true apex predators. 2 days before the presentation, the team met to compile their findings, had gathered data on Vex hunters. Crystalline Voice had information about apex beings. Silk had brought knowledge about predators. When presented his research to the team, there was silence. "This is about humans," Crystalline Voice said, "not just Earth's animals." "Yes," said, "because humans are the true apex predator of Earth. The data shows this clearly." Examined detailed analysis. "You have classified humans as apex predators on equal terms with sharks and bears." "Not equal," said, "superior because humans have something none of the others have." "What?" Silk asked gently. "Everything," replied. "Humans have physical capability, yes, but also intelligence, adaptability, the ability to work together, the ability to make tools, the ability to communicate over distance. Humans have the ability to plan for generations. Humans have the ability to teach their young complex skills over many years of development." Made a low sound. "This is a strong claim." "It is supported by evidence," said. "Humans hunted creatures larger than themselves. They survived ice ages and droughts and floods. They adapted to every environment on Earth. They are apex predators because they can do anything." The team decided to reorganize the presentation. Instead of just presenting data about different hunters, they would tell a story. They would show how different species became apex predators, and then they would analyze what true apex predation really meant. Presentation day came. The entire academy gathered in the main auditorium. Hundreds of students filled the seats. Teachers and administrators watched from the sides. Presented first, explaining Vex hunters and the role of strength in predation. Crystalline Voice discussed the subtle hunters of her world, showing how intelligence could be as important as physical power. Silk talked about the concept of balance and how some predators took only what they needed. Then stood up. He began with simple facts. Earth is a harsh world. It has extreme temperatures, dangerous weather, and many predators. Humans were not the first species to evolve there. They were not the largest or the strongest, but they became the apex predator. This is the story of how. He showed images of sharks. "This is a shark. It is a perfect predator. It has existed for hundreds of millions of years almost unchanged. It needs to do nothing but swim and eat. The ocean provides. The shark kills because that is what it is." He showed images of Earth's first humans. These humans were weak by comparison to most of Earth's animals. They could not run as fast as deer. They could not climb as well as monkeys. They could not see as far as eagles. They were prey for much of their early existence. They should not have survived. Paused, but humans had something else. They could think. They could plan. They could make tools. They could work together. And most importantly, they could do what was necessary to survive without hesitation and without mercy. He began showing historical data, images and descriptions of human hunting methods. Humans learned to create weapons. They learned to hunt in organized groups. They learned to track their prey for days across any terrain. They learned to set traps. They learned to use fire. They learned to adapt to any environment. The auditorium was completely quiet now. "A shark is a perfect predator because it is simple. It kills. It eats. That is all," continued. "But humans are apex predators because they are complicated. They think. They plan. They choose when to be aggressive and when to be patient. They can sacrifice in the present for advantages in the future." He showed images of human wars throughout history. The presentation did not glorify these conflicts, but it analyzed them with cold precision. Humans fought each other for resources. They built armies. They created strategies that worked across generations. They learned to work together in units of thousands, moving as one organism toward a goal. One image showed a human soldier standing alone, defending a position against an entire force. This human was weak individually, but he understood sacrifice. He understood duty. He understood that sometimes survival means being willing to die for something greater than yourself. That is another thing that makes humans dangerous. They are willing to die, and they are willing to take with them anyone who stands against what they believe in. His voice remained calm and steady throughout, but there was a power in his words that had not been there before. He was not bragging. He was not threatening. He was simply stating facts with the precision of a scientist. The final thing that makes humans apex predators is this, said, reaching the conclusion. Humans are patient. A shark must hunt to eat. It cannot wait. Its hunger drives it. But a human can wait. A human can plan for years or decades. A human can move through the world appearing harmless while preparing for something the prey never expects. He showed an image of a deep ocean. A shark swam in the water, visible and obvious. A shark is obvious. It must be. Anything in the water knows to fear a shark. But what about the depths? What lives in the places the shark cannot reach? What hunts in the places no other creature dares to go? Look directly at the audience. That is the human. The human is the apex predator that does not need to advertise its danger. The human can appear weak. The human can appear harmless. The human can smile and speak in gentle tones, and the human will still be exactly what it is, a hunter, a predator, something that should not be questioned or tested because that test might end in a way no one expects. The presentation ended. The auditorium remained completely silent for several seconds. Then slowly, other students began to understand what they had just heard. They looked at standing at the front of the auditorium, a small human among hundreds of much larger and stronger beings, but was no longer invisible. In the audience, felt his skin crawl. He suddenly understood exactly what had happened in that training facility corridor. The human had not just avoided his attacks. The human had been showing mercy. The human had been choosing not to hurt him. Crystalline voice made a sound like glass breaking. It was an involuntary response to fear. Even Silk, the gentle, seemed to pull slightly away. Returned to his seat as the other presentations continued, but no one was really paying attention anymore. They were all thinking about what the human had said. They were all reassessing what they thought they knew about humans, 2 days after the presentation found in the Academy library. The Vex warrior moved directly to his table without hesitation, but there was something different in his approach now. It was careful. It was respectful. "We need to talk," said. Closed his book. "All right." "Not here," replied. "Come with me." Followed to a quiet observation room that overlooked the stars beyond the academy. It was late evening, and no other students were present. The room was a place where students came to think or to be alone. Waited until the door was closed before he spoke. "Your presentation was a threat. You know this, yes?" Considered the question carefully. It was a presentation of facts. If you felt threatened, that is because you recognize something true in what I said. "Do not play with words," said, though his tone was not angry. It was more like the tone of someone trying to solve a puzzle. "You told the entire academy that humans are apex predators. You described them as patient hunters who appear weak but are actually dangerous. You were not describing humans in general. You were describing yourself." "Perhaps," said. "Or perhaps I was being honest about my species while you interpreted my honesty as a threat because you are not used to honesty from weak-appearing beings." Sat down slowly. The Vex warrior was large enough that the furniture groaned slightly under his weight. "In the training facility when my group confronted you, I learned something. You moved like a warrior. You avoided our attacks with skill. You could have hurt us. Any human with even basic combat training could have broken several of my warriors' bones that night, but you did not." Did not respond, he let continue. "I have been thinking about this for 2 days. I have been trying to understand, and I finally realized what was happening." Looked directly at. "You were not afraid. You were not even trying. You were barely using any of your strength or skill. You were holding back almost completely." "Yes," said simply. Why? The question was genuine, truly wanted to understand. Stood and walked to the observation window. He looked out at the stars for a long moment before answering. "Because I could have killed you and your warriors with minimal effort. I have training that you do not have. I have strength that comes from I have the ability to do things that would shock and horrify you. Leaned forward slightly. Show me. No, said, that is not the point. Then what is the point? Demanded. Turned back to face the Vex warrior. The point is choice. I could have fought you. I could have used my strength and my training to end the confrontation in your defeat. I could have gone to your friends and your family and shown them that the human they dismissed was dangerous. I could have proven myself, but I did not. Walked back to the table. Do you know why? Shook his head. Because the ability to harm someone is not the same as strength. Real strength is the ability to harm someone and choosing not to. Real strength is knowing exactly what you are capable of doing and then choosing a different path instead. The words hung in the silence between them. When you pushed me in the training facility, I was not afraid. I was not hesitating to fight back out of weakness. I was choosing not to break your arm because I did not need to prove anything. Not to you, not to myself, and not to the academy. Stood up. He was still much larger then, but something had shifted. He was no longer looking down at a weak student. He was looking at something that his instincts recognized, even if his pride did not want to acknowledge it. You could have stopped us at any time, said. You could have simply demonstrated what you are capable of. Yes, agreed. But you did not because it would have served no purpose except to satisfy my need to test you, continued, working through the logic. You did not need to prove anything, so you did not. You were completely in control the entire time, and I did not even realize it until you explained it to me. Smiled slightly. Now you understand. Made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been something else. I have spent months trying to assert dominance over you. I have pushed you, provoked you, tested you. And the entire time, you were the one in control. Every moment you did not fight back was a choice you made. Every time you remained calm was because you were certain of your power. Exactly, said. This changes everything, said quietly. Does it? Asked. Of course it does. The entire academy now knows that humans are dangerous. The way you presented those facts, everyone understood that you were speaking from knowledge, from understanding. We all recognized truth when we heard it. Walked to the observation window again. Does it change anything about me? 3 weeks ago, I was the same person I am now. I had the same training, the same abilities, the same knowledge. The only thing that has changed is what others believe about me. Considered this. That is not true. You have also changed what you allow others to see. Before, you hid yourself completely. Now you let small pieces of your true nature become visible. Yes, admitted, that is also true. Why? Asked. Why reveal yourself now? Turned to face the Vex warrior again. Because hiding forever serves no purpose. Because a species that hides its nature forever becomes a ghost in the galaxy. The Academy needed to understand what humans are, not in a threatening way, but truthfully. Nodded slowly. I want to understand more about humans. I want to understand what you are truly capable of. That would take a lifetime of study, said. Then I will start today, replied. I will help you. I will tell the other Vex about what I have learned. I will change how our people view humans, not out of fear, but out of respect. Extended his hand, took it. The Vex warrior was careful with his grip, mindful of the delicate bones of the human hand. Returned the grip with firmness that surprised. It was not a show of strength, but it demonstrated that physical limitations were not emotional limitations. Over the next week, the atmosphere at the academy shifted noticeably. Students no longer ignored or treated him as a weak outsider. Instead, they watched him carefully. They spoke to him respectfully. Some came to him with questions about human history or human philosophy. Crystalline voice approached one afternoon. I owe you an apology, she said in her wind chime voice. I believed you were weak and fragile. I was wrong. You were not wrong, said. I am small and fragile by the standards of most of this academy, but fragility and weakness are not the same thing. I have always been capable of the things I described in my presentation. That capability was never absent. It was simply unknown. Will you teach? Crystalline voice asked. The academy has requested that you lead some seminars on human philosophy and history. They would like to understand more. 6 months had passed since presentation on predators. The Intergalactic Academy of Knowledge had changed in subtle and fundamental ways. Stood in front of a classroom filled with over 200 students from a dozen different species. The course was called Advanced Defense Strategy, and it was rapidly becoming the most popular class at the academy. Students crowded the lecture hall, sitting in the aisles and standing against the walls. Strategy is not about strength, explained, gesturing to a holographic display showing various military formations throughout history. Strategy is about understanding. It is about knowing yourself completely, knowing your enemy completely, and understanding the environment where conflict will take place. He showed a historical example from Earth. A smaller force had defeated a much larger one through superior positioning and understanding of terrain. The larger force assumed that size was destiny. They assumed that more soldiers meant victory, but they were wrong. The smaller force understood something the larger force did not. They understood that preparation and knowledge were more valuable than raw power. A student raised a hand. But what if the larger force also has strategy? What if they have both size and intelligence? Paused. Then the smaller force must have something else. Determination, willingness to sacrifice, clarity about what must be protected at any cost. In history, humans have repeatedly defeated larger forces because they were fighting for something that mattered more than their own lives. They were fighting to protect their families, their homes, their way of life. Silk, the student, made a gentle questioning sound. You are saying that humans are dangerous not because of strength, but because they are willing to die for what they believe in. I am saying that humans are dangerous for many reasons, said. Strength is one, intelligence is another, patience is a third, ability to work together is a fourth, willingness to sacrifice is a fifth, but the most dangerous thing about humans is that they do all of these things at once. While other species choose between being strong or being intelligent or being patient, humans combine all of these traits. Sat in the front row, taking careful notes. Since his confrontation with months ago, the Vex warrior had become one of his most dedicated students. He attended every class and had declared his intention to pursue a degree in xenology with a focus on human civilization. After class, several students surrounded with questions. Asked if humans are apex predators, why have they not conquered the galaxy? Why do they not dominate all other species? Gathered his materials before responding. Because conquest requires leaving your world. It requires traveling through space and fighting for resources you do not need. Humans have learned through their history that expansion is not always wise, that sometimes the best choice is to stay home, develop your own world, and let others develop theirs. They seemed to accept this answer. In the academy dormitory that evening, sat with Crystalline Voice and Silk. They had become something like friends over the past months. Each of them had moved beyond their initial reactions to and developed genuine interest in understanding human nature. Your seminars have changed the way the entire academy thinks, Crystalline Voice said. Student applications have increased dramatically. More universities in the Galactic Network want to invite you to speak. Had received 17 invitations to speak at other educational institutions. He had accepted 5 of them. I have been thinking, Silk said gently, that perhaps this is the true strength of humanity, not the ability to dominate, but the ability to teach. You are changing how our entire species view humans, not through force, but through knowledge. In human history, this is called soft power, said. The ability to influence others through culture, knowledge, and ideas rather than military force. It is often more effective than physical power because it creates change that comes from understanding rather than from fear. Made a sound that was becoming familiar. He used it when he was impressed. You knew this would happen. When you gave that presentation, you knew it would change how we saw humans. Thought about this? I did not know exactly what would happen, but I knew that truth, when presented carefully and without aggression, has power. I knew that once the Academy understood what humans truly are, they would have to reassess everything they believed. Fear comes from ignorance. Understanding comes from knowledge. Over the next months, his influence continued to grow. He was invited to speak to the Academy's Leadership Council. He met with the Director of Admissions and discussed the possibility of creating specific programs designed to attract more human students. He mentored younger students, both human and other species, showing them that collaboration across species was not only possible but beneficial. One day, a group of 3 younger students approached him. They were a Vex and working together on a research project. Their topic was human contributions to galactic knowledge. They asked if he would review their work and provide feedback. Read through their research carefully. It was well done, showing genuine effort to understand different aspects of human civilization. When they asked for his evaluation, he gave them detailed notes on their strengths and areas for improvement. "Your weakness is here," said, pointing to a section. "You describe human emotions as a limitation, but emotions are not a weakness in humans. They are the source of human motivation. Humans take risks because they love. Humans sacrifice because they care. Humans create because they feel joy in creation. Understanding human emotion is essential to understanding human strength." The three students took his feedback seriously and thanked him for his help. In the academy cafeteria, found himself at a table with a mix of different species. Nobody was surprised by this anymore. What had once been unusual was now normal. A human studying with a Vex, and it was no longer noteworthy. Crystalline voice made a wind chime sound. It was her version of laughter now. "I remember when you first arrived. I felt sorry for you. I thought you were a pathetic creature trying to keep up with your superiors." Smiled, and now I know that you were understanding us far better than we understood ourselves. You came to this academy knowing exactly what you would encounter. You planned for it. You were patient. And when the time was right, you revealed the truth about your species. You used our own ignorance as a tool. "I did not use anyone," said. "I simply existed as I truly am once I was ready for people to see it. That is not a tool. That is simply honesty." Leaned back in his seat. "But it had the effect of a tool. Whether you intended it or not, everything you did changed how we think. That is power." Considered this? Perhaps, but it is not the kind of power you use to hurt others. It is the kind of power that comes from understanding yourself so completely that you do not need to prove yourself to anyone else. A shark does not spend time convincing other creatures that it is dangerous. A shark simply is, and everyone knows it. 6 months later, the first class of new human students arrived at the academy. There were 5 of them, each selected through a careful process that now specifically recruited human applicants. They were greeted not with indifference or skepticism, but with genuine interest and respect. Helped guide the new human students through their first weeks. He explained the academy's culture and helped them navigate their relationships with other species. When a new student, a human named Victoria, asked him for advice about whether she should hide her strength or show it openly, gave her the answer he had learned through his own experience. "Show who you truly are," he said, "but do it thoughtfully. Do it with intelligence. Do it with patience. Do it only when you are ready. But when you are ready, show the galaxy what a human truly is. That truth will be more powerful than any force." On his final evening at the academy, before he was scheduled to return to Earth for a brief visit, stood again at the observation window overlooking the stars. The academy rotated beneath him, and the distant suns glowed in the darkness of space. Found him there, as somehow expected he would. "You have changed everything," the Vex warrior said. Did not turn around. "I changed nothing. I simply revealed what was always there." "That is the same thing," replied. Finally turned to face his friend. Over the past months, they had developed a genuine friendship based on mutual respect. "When I first arrived at this academy, I was the invisible human. Everyone assumed I was weak. Everyone looked through me or at me with pity. Now everything is different." "Yes," said. "But the difference is not in me. The difference is in how you see me, in how your entire species sees humans. That change came from knowledge. That change came from understanding. And that is the most important thing about humans that I could teach you. Not how we fight, not how we survive, but how we think, how we choose to use our strength, how we can be dangerous and still choose mercy." Made his sound of respect. "Will you come back to the academy after your visit to Earth?" Nodded. "Yes. There is more work to do, more understanding to build. The galaxy is beginning to learn what humans are, but the real work is just beginning." They stood together, watching the stars, a Vex warrior and a human student. 2 beings from worlds that should not have been able to understand each other, but who had found common ground in honesty and respect. In the academy corridors below, other students of multiple species moved together through halls that had once been divided. The slow transformation of understanding continued, driven not by fear or force, but by the simple, powerful truth that had revealed. Humans were not soft. They were not weak. They were not fragile. They were apex predators who had chosen to carry the burden of civilization with grace. They were the sharks of the galaxy, but they had decided to swim in waters where all creatures could be safe, as long as those creatures gave them the respect and understanding that truth demanded. And in that choice lay the greatest power of all. Thought about this? Teaching would mean continuing to reveal his nature to the Academy. It would mean sharing human knowledge with beings who had never understood human strength before. Yes, said, I will teach. As walked through the Academy corridors after his conversation with Crystalline Voice, other students moved aside to let him pass, nodded at him from across the cafeteria. Even the most aggressive students treated him with caution and respect. Had not become more powerful. The Academy had simply finally understood what it meant to be human. As the Academy gathered in the cafeteria that evening, the conversations all seemed to be about's presentation. Other species debated whether he had been threatening them. Some said he was just explaining biology, but all of them were watching with new eyes. And in those eyes, could see the first signs of something he had been waiting for the entire time he had been at the Academy. Fear. Not the kind of fear that came from physical strength, but the kind of fear that came from understanding that something was not what it seemed. The fear that came from realizing that intelligence and patience were more dangerous than muscles. Acknowledged it with a slight nod and continued walking. He was no longer invisible, but he was still patient. That had not changed. Months passed. Reputation became fixed. He was the weak human. He was the one who did not fight back. He was the one who did not deserve respect. Even the gentle species, who were not known for aggression, seemed to regard him as lower in status. Continued his studies. He continued to improve, and he said nothing about what he truly was. He kept his thoughts to himself, his observations private, and his understanding hidden. He was waiting for something, but nobody knew what.